Welcome to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, folks, we got a good one for you today. Service Driver Assist. Dave, we've never had that light in Tech Garage.
Well, this is a code that didn't really exist about 10 years ago. We had nothing like this.
That's right.
And Driver Assist can cover all kinds of things on the car. It could be the anti-lock braking system, stability control, you have autonomous braking, all these autonomous car features. Maybe a truck stopped in your lane or something like that and your car stops itself. Lane departure warnings, a vibration in the seat if you leave your lane. And of course the adaptive cruise control. Also, that is all part of what would fall under this category.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of sensors. There's things in the bumper. So first thing to do was to scan it, and I come up with this weird code, kind of indicative of what's going on with that Driver Assist stuff. It's a B172E. Well, first of all, B is a body code. We don't get a lot of those. C is chassis, P is powertrain, U is network code. So this is a body code, and it says it's a haptic motor on the driver's side. Dave, I don't even know what that is.
Well, haptics, John, you're a little too old to know about haptics in video games, but if you have feedback in your controller in a video game and it vibrates, if you're shooting something or you're racing a car and it goes off the road and you feel the vibration from it, that's haptic feedback. You've also experienced probably on your cell phone when you maybe press a number or a letter on it and it has a little vibration to give you feedback. That's all haptic feedback, and we have the same thing in seats of cars today, and we actually have a demo, so I'm going to go grab that.
Well, that makes all the sense in the world what Dave was talking about, because the seat's not vibrating. I believe it used to. So I got all the information. That's the first thing you have to do. The flow chart, all that. It showed that the actual module is located underneath the seat. So what I'm going to have to do is kind of unbolt the seat, get it up, kind of contort it a little bit so we can gain access to that module and make some tests. But we can't make any tests without looking at a schematic. So let's take a look at the schematic right here. And you can see the module. It's actually located under there, the driver's seat. It's called the seat memory control module. And that feeds two wires down to the seat haptic motor. There's a right rear and a left rear one on the seat. They're both embedded into the seat in the cushion. And what happened, every time that sensor's up there, you can see the front parking sensors, the camera view, or the active safety control module sends a signal. It's going to go ahead and vibrate that. Like you're going to run into something or crash into something, it lets you know. So we need to get under there. Seat was super simple to get up. I just took the trim panel off the side, popped it off. Once it was off, I can gain access to the little plug there. I unplugged that went to the actual ABS components. Got it kind of loose on the front end here. Then I went around to the back. I had some Torx bolts back there, took both those torque bolts out. Once they were out, well, that allowed me to actually lift the seat up, get it out of the front track, and tip it up. And that's where we stand right now. So what I went ahead and did, I went and replugged it back in so I could have power to make sure I have power to make these tests. And that's what the flow chart says. So I'm going to get down here, and thank goodness I got my magic creeper to actually kneel on, because whew, my knees can't take this. But I'll tell you what, the module's located right here under the seat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to pop it down a little bit and not go too far. There it is. And see if I can snake out the plug right here that goes. Now, I looked in the service manual to where it was. Here's the plug. Actually, it tells me right here to disconnect KD40 of the seat module controller. And then what it wants to do, it wants to check it basically for continuity to the motor and a short to ground. So if I just come over here, turn the key on, reach over here and turn the key on, and I got my connector views, and I go to terminals 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it in the upright position, 4, and then 5. So I'm going to stick this in 4 and 5, and I'm going to do two things. I'm going to look for voltage, and it wants less than 1 volt. We're good there. And I want to go to ohms, and it says ohms need to be anywhere from 27 to 51, and we're OL. Well, the OL showing us we have a haptic motor problem, so we'll just get the seat out, take it over to the bench so you can see what's going on. You don't want to miss that. Stick around. There's more Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com.
Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com, is brought to you by Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. Clamp Tight, the clamp making tool. And by RockAuto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Now, we're working on the haptic feedback system in our Chevy Tahoe. We've got the sensor back in our seat, but before we put the seat back in, I want to show you here on an extra cushion how the system really works. Now, first of all, it fits right here in the slit in the side of the seat. So you often see in these cars people getting in and out. It'll actually take the wire and fray it because the sensor fits right in there, and they tear that wire, and that's what happened in our case. So just for demonstration purposes, we soldered it back together because I want to show you how it really works. Now, pull this apart and you can look inside. It couldn't be simpler. It's an electric motor and there's a weight in here that's just off balance. So when it spins, it just makes the motor shimmy and shake and vibrate. And when we hook it up, we can look and see it do exactly that. There it is, John. It's a super simple device, and it really can be a lifesaver.
Enough of the fun stuff. I took everything out. Guess who gets to put it back in?
Oh, lucky me.
Yep. Have at it, buddy.
I'll get to it.
Awesome. Well, you know, it's all about the emergency systems. It's all about the safety systems. They work all together. And you can take a look at this graphic right here. You know, it talks about the restraint system, the seat belt systems. You got steering angle sensors. You actually have that seat, what Dave just talked about, that haptic motor inside of there. You have crumple zones on the body, different airbag configurations, and even seat belt retractors. Now, we can see it all laid right out here on the table. You got an airbag system in your car, and we did a show about airbags a couple of years ago. You have a driver's airbag right here, basically nitrogen gas, and what's going on back here, you got an igniter, and you hit something, boom, it goes off. You also have a passenger airbag as well. Now, our passenger airbag, that's usually argon gas. It's located right here, is the cartridge right here. This is the one sitting up in the dash for your passenger. These are usually multi-stage airbags today. They deploy with safety, weight sensors in the seat, all kinds of electronics going on. You also have a module right here, which is an airbag module. Now, you see the arrow direction? That has to go in that direction. Why? Because it's all about that delta velocity, hitting something. You can't go up and just hit the front of the vehicle, nothing's gonna happen. You're gonna have that motion and that velocity to kick this ball off and have a couple things trigger before you actually kick the airbags off. So good look at some airbag systems. Also ties into the seatbelt system. This is pretty cool. You may have pyrotechnics in your car. When that accident or that event occurs, this thing actually, gas goes off in here. Pyrotechnics wind this down, pulls it down, hold you into the seat as you go back so you don't smash into the airbag. This all happens calculated and happens with timing. You may also have electronic seat belts, and this is pretty cool. Electronically, we can wind it back in the case of an accident, or we can simply just wind it back when your eyes are blinking. You may be blinking your eyes. BMW uses infrared technology. You fall asleep, it sees it close, bam, 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 wakes you up. All tied into the steering wheel here, my friends. You can see the steering wheel with the steering angle sensor, all the buttons inside of there. You got a steering angle sensor in there that turns to the left or right. You got yaw rates, they're out the other way. The car knows you're out of control. So it's all about the emergencies. Speaking of emergencies, we're gonna talk emergency brakes when we come back with more Tech Garage, brought to you by rockauto.com. Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by rockauto.com. Well, we're moving at warp speed. Time to slow it down a bit. And you know what? Garage Ed is all about the e-brake. Now, the e-brake's a mechanical link to the wheels to stop them, not hydraulic. The brake system's hydraulic, so it's a backup system. Well, how does it work? Everybody knows how it works. You hit the pedal, and it either engages, locks your brakes, or you pull up on a handle. The magic's all in the cutaway. Check this out. So what's happened is I'm going up and down. As I pull the lever up and down, you can see the shoes are actuating in and out. So the shoe would actually contact the drum out here. Now what's going on is you can see right here, this is an actuator that's tied into the emergency brake, and then the cable comes all the way up and it's attached to the handle. So voila, pull up on the emergency brake, shoes engage, you're going to stop the vehicle. You could have a hydraulic failure and you still have that mechanical backup. Now you may have one that's a caliper. Calipers also have emergency brakes built into them. Throw up the red flag. Stop. We're so used to pulling these in. When we put a C-clamp on them, we push it in. We can destroy this one. How are you going to know? Well, look at the back of the caliper right here. You see all this apparatus right here? This is actually a cable-driven mechanical caliper. Plus it's hydraulic as well. So right here on the inside, you can see how it works all there. As you pull the e-brake, it's going to mechanically drive it out, but also works hydraulically as well. So you can see a tool. I have a tool right here. And this tool right here is really cool. This is how we're going to actually engage it. You have to have this tool. Don't go get a C-clamp. Don't get a press. Do not push these mechanical calipers in, please. They'll never come back out. So the little dimples right here, I'm going to get the tool. I'm going to put it in those little dimples holes. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me with the tool to actually put a little tiny bit of pressure with this one. So I would turn this one and put a little pressure on it, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to wind it in. When I turn this here, you can see you're actually winding the caliper in just as it would wind out. So that's the tool you have to use when we're dealing with a mechanical driven and hydraulic caliper all built into one. Now here's the cool one. We did this a couple of seasons ago and this thing still amazes me. This is actually electronic driven e-brake. Also has hydraulics built into the back of it, but electronic on the front of it. And guess what? Of course, we're going to show it to you in action. So here's the deal. I would never do this, and don't do this at home because obviously the computer actuates it and there's all kinds of sensitive electronics going on. But at Tech Garage, I'm going to go ahead and drive this thing. When I drive it, watch. Pretend you're pushing the e-brake button. So I push the e-brake button. When I push the e-brake button, there it goes. It starts winding it out. When it winds it out, it clamps it right in there. Just like that. You can actually hear that on your car. Then when you want to go, you release it. All it does, reverse the polarities. It's a bidirectional motor. It winds it in. Notice it's winding it in, but the piston's not going in. Well, once you wind it in, then you can come back and push on this one and it can retract. But how you wind it in is going to be in the service manual. You may have some dash, infotainment systems you have to go in. You may have to use a scan tool, but once again, electronic e-brake. Throw up a red flag. It's the new technology. It's cool stuff. It works really great. Speaking of cool stuff, Dave has one more setup on this Challenger that has some shoes incorporated in the back of a rotor. Too cool. And so is Dave. Let's check in with him.
Well, John showed you a lot of different types of emergency brakes, but here's one he didn't show you. On our Challenger here, we take a look. Looks like a regular disc brake, right? Well, it is, but we look at the caliper and we see that there's no cable coming in, so it's not an electronic e-brake system, and there's no lever, so that means it's not mechanical. So where's the emergency brake? Let me show you. You take the disc, we'll pull it off, and it's essentially a drum brake inside the disc here. So we have shoes, and they push out. So these are in the détente position, and the springs actually pull them together. And when you pull the emergency brake, those shoes push out and they push against the inside of what is a drum inside the disc. And there is your emergency brake. So now that we have this off, I do want to make a note. We pulled the caliper off. It's connected by the hose there, and you do not want to let the weight of the caliper be held up by that hose. So we took a bungee cord here to take up that tension, and that is going to save us a lot of heartache in the long run. Now that we have our disc and drum system pulled off, we want to take a look here at our shoes and see if there's any debris in there. It's going to be some obvious stuff when you do the visual inspection, and this looks pretty good. So we're going to start sanding here. We're going to make sure we have a good coefficient of friction, get some of the dirt off of there and get a nice even surface for our drum to grab onto. And then we'll do the same thing over here on the drum as well. You're going to sand around the entire thing to make sure that we have a nice grippy surface, and then it's going to help us stop. And the final step, of course, we want to take some brake clean. Make sure you got something to catch all this debris underneath, by the way, as we have here. We'll take our brake clean, give it a nice spray and get all the junk off of here. Do the same thing on our drum inside our disc, and we will be good to go. That one's dripping there, so I'll put it there. One other thing I want to show you, have you ever been in a car where you pull the emergency brake handle and it just flies way up in the air and there's hardly any resistance to it? There is an adjustment you can make, and it's this star adjuster right here. You can just take a screwdriver and you push on one of the gears, and that'll move these shoes up and down, and that'll control how much it actually rubs inside the drum here. And you want it to rub just a little bit on the inside of this drum. And on the inside of the car, you want 2 or 3 notches on your emergency brake when you pull it up. Just a couple little minor adjustments and a little bit of work, and your emergency brake will be as good as new. Do not go anywhere, because next segment we have our MTTT. That's the Master Technician Tech Tip. It's a good one, so stay tuned to Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com.
Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com is brought to you by Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. NH Oil Undercoating, the official oil-based rust prevention system. And by RockAuto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, I hope you're having fun, because we sure are. And it's time for the Master Technician Tech Tip, hashtag MTTT. And it's all about the charging system. What does the charging system do? And what's the tech tips that can help us out in the driveway? Well, first of all, the charging system supplies all the electricity when the car's running. And, you know, it's taken a beating nowadays. Why is that? Well, you got amps, you got all kinds of electronic power steering, you have drive-by-wire cars, you have electronic brakes, you have so many electronic accessories on your car today, it's actually exceeding the demand of the alternator. So, you know, we'll see in a little while, perhaps we can step up to a higher output alternator. That would be a great thing. But right now, let's just look at how it works. So our alternator's sitting right here, and it's connected right here to the actual battery. So the positive cable runs, it produces an AC, which is a ripple current, sends it over to the battery. The battery then acts as a capacitor, a storage container. It smooths out the electricity, and the rest of your car works really, really well. But if it's actually overcharging or charging all the time because of all these accessories, it's getting hot. Well, why is that? Well, it's a ginormous electromagnet. That's what an alternator is. You can see a rotor assembly right here, and I can actually magnetize it for you. This is really cool. I got a positive cable right there, and these are the actual slip brushes inside your alternator that would connect to. I'm going to connect the positive cable to the battery. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out of this big magnetic magnet here with these claw poles, and I'm going to connect the negative battery cable. So I'm going to take the negative battery cable, slide it on the other ring, making sure they're not touching. That wouldn't be a good thing. And then what I'm going to do is connect it to the battery. So right now I created a ginormous electromagnet. You don't believe me? Big old socket. Ready? Bam. Just that good. If I was to take the magnetic field away, it's not TV tricks. Bam, there goes the socket. All right, so that's a huge magnet. Now think about that for a minute. If your alternator's having to work, this guy's magnetized, that's putting a lot of drain on your engine. You're going ahead, a lot more gas mileage, a lot more belt wear, a lot more tension wear. So in a nutshell, an alternator is just a giant electromagnet. This is the actual rotor assembly right here, and here's the stator. And it induces a voltage, and it makes voltage. That's pretty cool. I can do it right here. We spin it around. I have no electronic source plugged into this whatsoever, and bam, I'm making an AC output. Eventually it rectifies it, gets it back to the battery DC. But you know what? You guys came here for the tech tips. And here's a tech tip you can do right out in the driveway. It's called OCV, open circuit voltage. Just come across the battery, and it's sitting at about 12 volts. Now, when we start the car, we should actually raise the voltage. The voltage should go up because I need the alternator to produce more than the battery does. Kind of like if I put 12 pounds of pressure here and 12 pounds, it wouldn't go anywhere. But if I put 14 pounds here and 12, it would go towards the battery. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to see if the battery will raise up. Now, in no way, shape, or form does this mean your alternator is performing perfectly. There's all kinds of alternator diode tests, and we can do a couple voltage drop tests as well. But we're going to look at that. Once the car's running, then I'm going to check for voltage drop. This is hugely important. I can come here on the positive cable, and I can go over here to the positive. Positive to positive. We should see less than 5/10 of a volt, a half of a volt. If you have more than that, you're getting some loss in the feedback to the battery. And then I'm going to switch from negative to the case, negative to negative, and we're wanting to see a low voltage as well, less than half of a volt, because you have some loss in the ground system. Not good. It's going to prematurely wear out your alternator, and we don't need to do that. So let's go ahead, Trip. I got Trip, one of our tech team members, in the car. He's going to go ahead and start it up. Let it run until I tell you. Awesome. You can see it go up. That's a great thing. Positive voltage drop. 0.4, less than a half a volt. Negative voltage drop. 0.1, not even a little bit of a tenth of a volt. No big deal. We're in good shape here. Thanks, Trip. This car's in good shape, but you know, if you put a bunch of accessories on your car, you can always upgrade, but you might not know how much your alternator is actually putting out. Tom and Dave has the answers.
Thanks, John. Now, Tom, if I have a problem with my alternator and I know I need a new one, how do I know which one I need for my vehicle?
Well, you go to rockauto.com, look under electrical, and we list all the alternators that came on your vehicle originally. There might be some choices there, if there were optional and standard versions of the alternator. Sometimes in the alternator body itself, it'll have printed what the output is. If you have the original window sticker for the vehicle, you can say, okay, well, it came with the optional alternator. Sometimes you can just look at the vehicle. If it's the work truck without any options on it, it probably came with the low output alternator. And if it was the luxury truck with heated seats and a lot of electronics, then it came with the higher output alternator. The good news is, if you look at the photo on rockauto.com and it matches what you have, then it's okay to upgrade to the higher output alternator. And you're all set then. If you get more accessories later on, lights or something, you'll have that higher output alternator. And when the new car was sold, there might have been a $500 option or something for the higher output alternator, but at Rock Auto it might be $10 or $20 more, so it might be worth it for you.
That's great. Well, the alternator is the unsung hero of the car's electrical system. RockAuto.com is the unsung hero of the automotive parts industry, and John Gardner is the unsung hero of this here show. Well, here in our Tahoe, we reverse the procedure, put the sensor back in, put the seat back down. John, all we have to do now is test it.
Yeah, I'll just crank it up, put in gear, figure out if the seat's going to work. I just need something to run over.
I've got just the guy. Hey, Josh.
Dear. There it goes. It's vibrating.
It works. Fantastic.
Oh, both sides. We got it.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep. It was a great show today, man. We got another one fixed. Next week, we got a clunk on a minivan. You don't want to miss that. Join us for more Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com. Hey, one more time, Josh. Moose. I think I can get him.
Production assistance for Tech Garage is provided by Chipola College, located in Marianna, Florida. Founded in 1947, Chipola was ranked recently as one of the top 3 community colleges in the United States.